I'm just going to jump right into it. Hey guys, welcome to Chef Grace's Place. Today I have Howard Allen from Maroon Sausage. I'm really excited because this sausage isn't like any other kind of sausage. It is jerk chicken sausage. So how did you come up with this idea? And, tell me a little bit about yourself.
The jerk chicken sausage idea. My first of all, I live in Brooklyn, and there's jerk chicken everywhere in Brooklyn, in the Bronx. So just being in this environment made it very accessible. I am not of West Indian descent, but my wife is. So, we would frequent these restaurants, and one day it was just like, I was talking to a friend of mine who wanted to do a mobile food business, right? And he was thinking about what he should cook on his mobile food platform. And I'm like, do sausages. What kind of sausage? And we just started making up stuff, right? Just exploring what exists and what would be good if it existed. And we found a company that actually made a jerk chicken sausage, and we thought we could do a better job. And it was like, they don't really know how to make it sing like we can make it sing. So neither one of us had made sausage though. So it was the first time we were actually going to make sausage, but it turned out that he could not do the project. He had to table it. So like 2014, I asked him if I could just continue with the idea of making a jerk chicken sausage. And from that point on, I started developing the recipe in my apartment for a jerk chicken sausage with a KitchenAid stand mixer.
Sure the tiny Brooklyn apartment.
my little tiny kitchen. I got a rack just like yours full of just seasoning in the back. And just started doing it every Saturday until I came up with something that I thought that my kids would eat and my mother-in-law would eat. And once I got that, I was like, I'm solid. I know that I got something. But I never I didn't know what to do with it necessarily once I did it. So getting into like food events and stuff like that is what I did after I created the I guess, prototype. And then I slowly began to wrap a brand around the product that I created.
So you mentioned you never made sausage before. Did you work in a professional kitchen at all before that, or?
Nope, I'm actually from the design industry. I'm a creative director, so I understand branding and understand experiences. I just like to eat food. I cook for my family a lot. So that, it was just one of those things where I watched a lot of YouTube videos of people making sausage and giving recommendations and just applying that knowledge while I would work through different approaches to how I wanted the sausage to work, in terms of spice level, the heat level, how hot do I want it to be? Do you want it to be like American hot, Caribbean hot, or like African hot? How hot can it be? We all know there's varying levels, varying tolerances for heat. So, working through that, what type of peppers am I going to use? Are there any other accents that I would like to add? Because not everyone's jerk tastes the same, unless they're getting it from a bottle. But it was just a whole creative process that I understood from a design perspective and working through like different variations on the creative idea from a design perspective, but applying it to food. How do you prototype out a food product? If you're going to do a pasta sauce and you wanted to have your signature on it, you probably do it a couple of different ways to make it yours, to own it. And you probably have to cook it a few times and then write out all the notes so that you can then translate it and scale it up to something that's, production worthy.
And something a lot of people don't think about that aren't in the food industry, it's not just, okay, I have this product and it tastes great. But then you have to figure out when it comes to distribution. So a lot of times the recipe has to change in order to keep the shelf life.
Right.
Um,
And I had to deal with that as well.
that sucks.
Yeah, because here in the States, things are pasteurized. If you go to Italy or France, the cheeses, the butters, that stuff isn't pasteurized, and it tastes way different than what we have, right? The experience that you get there is different because of the processes that they use to get some of the things that they make.
And did you have any particular hurdles with that? Because I would assume with, most of the sausage we buy in America is beef or pork. And,
Right.
I see, like, if you go to maybe like, a restaurant that does their sausage in house, you'll get like a chicken sausage.
Mhm.
But, chicken has its own hurdles with salmonella and that kind of thing. So,
Right. My challenge was in the beginning, I was only thinking about a fresh sausage because I was making it at home. And when I wanted to scale up the recipe and use it for food events, I had to take in consideration waste, right? My events were outdoors in the summer. And, if you don't cook all of that chicken, you know what happens to that.
yep.
It's gone. So, I had to turn around and say, okay, if I'm going to, actually do this, it's probably better to have a smoked product. So I had to find a co-packer that would be able to smoke the product and have that same sort of effect, that same sort of flavor that I wanted when I initially came up with the idea.
And for people listening that don't know what a co-packer is, a co-packer is basically like you'll give them your recipe and they'll produce it for you, which is always kind of like, because they say they won't give out your secret recipe, but who knows?
Right. There is some risk, but the advantage to it is that I don't have to have a production facility.
Exactly.
So I don't have to go to a bank and take out the financial risk.
Exactly.
They already have all the equipment and the experience. I just, have to sign an agreement, hand the seasoning, and it goes. But I did it in such a way where they have the ingredients, but they don't have the recipe. Right? So they know what's in it. They just don't know how much of what each ingredient is in the actual recipe itself. That's all the USDA wants to know, what's in it. They don't care about the amounts.
But then how do they make it for you?
So I have a spice guy who just, his he's called Brooklyn Spice. He is 15 minutes walking distance from my house. He blends the spices, he packages it up, and he sends it across Brooklyn to Sunset Park, and they get a 5-pound box, and they just pour it in the chicken and make the sausage. That's all they want to know. That's all they did. So it's two separate processes. One guy's doing the seasoning. He knows what's in it, but the guy that's making the sausage does not. He knows the ingredients, but he doesn't know the amounts.
That's clever.
So that's how I resolve that in my mind.
They know that because the spice guy doesn't know the ratio of chicken to the spice either.
No, he's just like, I tell him, I need enough to make 100 pounds. I need X amount. He sends X pounds of spices.
So with the sausage too, what kind of casing are you using?
I think I've tried to use every casing that I could get my hands on in the beginning because I just did not know how I wanted it to work from that perspective. So I had to learn about, what's the difference between a pork casing, a lamb casing, a beef casing, something that is, like a gelatin sort of casing. Like what is the difference? And right now we use a lamb casing. I started out with beef. I personally do not eat pork. That's why it's a non-pork product. Um, but I did use a pork casing just because I thought, I need to understand. A,
Yeah.
it's the cheapest. B, it's the size is what Americans are used to. It's what people are used to seeing. It's the diameter of a pork casing. A lamb casing is smaller in diameter, but it has that natural snap that you would get with pork. It's a little bit more delicate, so it's harder to work with. It's the most expensive option. So there's also
Naturally.
price, right? There's also price and cost that goes into that. But the beef is available. It's only for certain types of sausage, and if you work with it, it's tougher. So when you bite through it, it's not gonna snap. It's gonna kind of break, and
And then it
it's
has
not.
like that peel coming off.
It's
Yeah.
not as pleasant. But you're supposed to use it if you're going to do like a salami or something like that. That's an aged product, not a smoked per se.
Um, where do you source your chicken from? Local places or?
I try to source chicken from in New York State, and New York State does not have a good support system for poultry growers. People who are in the chicken business are, they might have offices in New York State, like upstate, but those chickens are probably hatched and growing in either Pennsylvania or Delaware.
Yeah.
So you're getting them within 2 hours of where I am. But, it's, the state of New York is just not a good place if you're running a poultry farm. So I could not get, thousands of pounds of chicken thighs, to do what I wanted to do. If you're doing with New York, it's going to be gourmet level, right? They're going to give you 100 pounds, 200 pounds, and it's going to be really expensive. It's going to be grass fed and all those special things that we like to hear, but you're going to end up with a $20 sausage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, the states of, Delaware and Pennsylvania are less expensive to operate in, and they support their poultry farmers in those states very well. And they have space to do that.
And 2 hours isn't that far away.
Yeah.
Comparatively.
Yeah, right. In the East Coast, that's considered local.
Exactly. Yeah, I used to live in Philly, and I used to get incredible like duck eggs and stuff like that at the farmers market. So
right.
It's not, Philly's not too far from.
2 hours away.
Yeah.
It's right there.
Yeah. Now I'm in Florida. You got to drive 2 hours just to go, anywhere.
Everything is, Florida is a bit spread out.
Yeah.
Still a nice place though.
Yeah. Sunny. So, Maroon Sausage. Maroon doesn't, it's not the color, right?
No.
You want to talk about that a little
bit? It's not about the color. Although it is a lovely color, it's not about color. The name of the company is basically an homage to the people who came up with the flavor. So the Maroon people, the people who we refer to as the Maroon people, are in the mountains of Jamaica, and they came up with the flavor that we know today as jerk. So all the spices, the thyme, and all that stuff actually grows naturally up in the mountains. And the way the story goes is, those people came from Ghana. They were brought to Jamaica by the Spanish. They escaped the Spanish, got up into the mountains, and the Spanish could not get them out. So they referred to them as maroons, like marooned on an island. They're marooned up in the mountain. But the story also goes, the Spaniards cannot hold on to the island of Jamaica. They lost it to the Brits. So the British couldn't get the Maroons out either. So they signed a treaty with the Maroons to allow them to keep that land up there just as long as they don't come down and free the slaves down in the valley. That was the deal. So, they are known as Jamaica's version of freedom fighters. So I named the company after those people.
That's cool.
Thank you.
Must be that design marketing side, huh?
That's where that all comes in. You have to have a story, I think, with your product to make people to draw them in. I think it just makes the experience that much more rich and interesting for the consumer.
And it ties in really well to your the cause side of your business.
Right, right.
Um,
The whole fighting of human trafficking. I think I did it because of that story.
okay, so you want to tell us a little more about that?
Sure. Because I come from the marketing branding side, my mind just works in that way where I want to come up with a nice. Basically, I'm telling stories through food, right? And I was like, what's a nice way to button up this story? You have this group of people who fought for their freedom in Jamaica. In that process, they came up with this dish that people really appreciate. Okay, what do you do with the proceeds from this to make it so it's not just a culture vulture sort of situation? Um, so when I was doing these little, well, they weren't little, they were these really large food events here in Brooklyn. I was like, I'm going to take some of this money and I'm going to donate it to a non-for-profit that deals with the issue of human trafficking. So I went online, and they have these like tools now where you can look at um, how efficient non-for-profits spend their dollars. Like, where do the dollars go? Do
Yeah,
they
that's
go
always
to
a problem.
administrative costs, or do they go to actually fixing problems? So I went and I looked and did a little research, and I found a couple of organizations that I liked, and I picked freetheslaves.org and just started sending them checks. Um, just like, here, I'm going to give you a percentage of my sales from my event every week that I have an event, and that's how it all started. And I just thought, this is actually a pretty meaningful. If the company actually blew up and got big, these checks could help lots of people, right? So I just kept it, and now I'm waiting for the company to blow up.
Well, I think it will. I mean, come on, that's such a great idea.
But
um,
I'm still trying to get it into stores in Florida. Publix needs to do something.
yeah, they do. If you're listening, yeah, Publix is like I've interviewed a few like food companies, right? And actually, yesterday I was interviewing a whiskey company, and I was like, I can't find your whiskey anywhere, and it was like all the ones that were like Publix is like the worst for
Really?
like when it comes to variety. Like they had not a lot. And then when it comes to something like a Jamaican jerk chicken, right? They already don't have like a huge selection of sausage to begin with.
Right.
But it um surprisingly, like, I'm in South Florida, so we have a ton of Caribbean people here.
Right. That's what I would think, that there would be something.
So how is it that the Caribbean food is still in like the international foods ethnic aisle? You know what I mean? I
That's
feel
that's
like
big,
that's
that's big
not.
corporation thinking. That's how corporations think.
Well, even when I was, which I thought was funny, because I'm from North Jersey, so all the Italian food is just in the regular. I feel like it's like segregation. It's
Yeah,
just in the Italian food up there is in the like regular
yeah.
aisle,
It's
right?
not it's not defined by its ethnicity at all. It's just pasta and sauces.
Yeah, and
Uh,
especially when it came to like semolina flour, where I grew up, that was just next to the flour, and
mhm.
different types of flour. But then
Right.
I would come down here, and that was like in the ethnic food aisle. And that's when I was like, oh, this is
Uh-huh.
like racism. But it was just because but also like that's where all the good food was anyway, because it had, all the flavor and stuff.
I think that the United States and how food is kind of labeled, it varies from region to region, but it also is influenced by, there's a flat sort of vanilla American palate, right? It's very safe. There's no risk, and people feel comfortable in that zone. Um, but if you start talking about specialized, what we perceive as unique products, then they have to come up with a category to kind of define it to people so that people can understand how they engage with it. So if you are into Italian sausage, but you don't want sweet or hot, and you want something that is a bit more unique from a particular region in Italy that is probably like dried sausage, then you got to go to some specialized store. It's not going to be in your average grocery store. So it limits people's exposure to all the wonderful things that are in the world that, grocery stores just cannot wrap their heads around.
Yeah, and a lot of that too. I mean, that a lot has to do with like the industrial food system and like all the monocultures and all that fun stuff.
From
Which
a business perspective, it's efficiency,
yeah.
right? Efficiency and safety. You're taking risks. I don't. I was watching this. I like to watch food shows, and I was watching a show about this Italian chef who was doing, his local dishes that his grandma made in, I think he may have been in the Tuscan region or something. And my man was talking about legumes. He was talking about like 10 different types of beans that you're never going to see in a regular grocery store. You're going to have to go to a special store that, really likes legumes.
Probably the vegan store. um so have you gotten in any other grocery chains that's not Publix?
Not big stuff. We've tried big stores, here like Pathmark and, big, average grocery stores, and our product doesn't perform well there. Our product performs well in small boutique grocery stores where people are looking for an experience. So they're called like specialty grocery stores. So, here, it's going to be stores that you would only hear of if you are a quote unquote foodie and you're looking to do something unique for your family or your dinner party.
So Whole Foods?
I have not messed around with Whole Foods because it's going to take a lot to get a meat product into that store, right?
They
And
also have a local
Forager, you talking about?
not forager, but a local, well, maybe if we're not talking about mushrooms. The like I know in the ones down here they have sections where they're like this is all made locally because I think there's
Right, right. And I
that's
have friends who have products in that section, if they're not in the sort of international section. But when you start talking about meat, there's all these specifications that
true.
you have to meet, and it takes several months to get through that process. Now I was like, Whole Foods is a nice place to be, but it is not the end all to be all. There are other ways to get people this product without having to go
That's
through that
true.
process. And I would love to be in Whole Foods, but when I looked at the hurdles to get the product to the consumer, I was like, it's easier for me to just go to Green Grape here in Brooklyn, and it's a specialty shop with wines and cheese, and it's a butcher and all those things that Whole Foods has, but it's like a quarter of the size. They put in their order every week or every month, and I bring it to them personally. If I mess around with Whole Foods, I can't have that sort of relationship. I have to go through a distributor, and and I have to give them free fills, and I have to deal with the corporate structure of Whole Foods that I just didn't feel personally that I was ready to
Yeah, that's
engage.
a headache.
It's a lot, and I was still learning what this business was all about, because like I said, I'm not from the food business at all.
And also that would, whenever you add another, person in between you and the customer, it usually raises the prices of your product.
Whoop, whoop.
Yep.
Exactly. It's going to add another like 30%.
Yeah, that's a lot.
In addition to all of they're going to make you pay like marketing fees and all these other fees that are in there, that if you are not aware of, that's what's going to kill your product.
Yeah. So you're selling online then, right?
I sell a little bit online. Online is up and down because, COVID has people in the house, and then COVID has people out of the house. So some people, when people were all locked in the house, online sales were great. Now that people can go out and eat and they're tired of looking at their families, they're out. They're out having dinner. I just dropped off some product just this morning to one of my customers. I service cafes who do breakfast and brunch. Man, the whole sidewalk is full of chairs and tables, and people are just out there relaxing, having lunch, and they're not at home cooking, so they're not ordering sausage online.
But you're getting some wholesale from the cafes and stuff?
That's where it all went. It's moving faster there than it was online because everybody's eating out. So my sales that were going online just transitioned right into cafes and restaurants, and chefs are looking for new things for their customers. But as you probably know, in Florida, they're having a difficult time with finding employees to help them do all the stuff that they want to do. So it's challenging.
That's a whole nother.
That's another episode.
That's a whole nother episode. And the thing I miss the most about living up north is that there are so many more people like you and like mom and pop shops, like people that small businesses.
Right.
Down here, right. It's like, especially I feel like in places where it's like, there's a correlation to like places that you can't really get around walking, and right. like big right. box stores and drive-throughs and stuff. So like it's so like everything is a chain for the most part, unless you can pay a crazy amount of money for rent to be like right on the beach. You know what I mean?
Oh, well, that beach. If you can get on that beach.
Yeah, or like a block away, if you're like downtown. But like
right.
Like there's no like neighborhood type thing.
The East Coast is tighter and it's more independent. So you're gonna get I think there might be 4 Caribbean restaurants within walking distance of my house. And I mean like 2-block radius. 4. Owned by 4 different people.
And they have to be good because they're all competing with each other.
From 4 different islands. I think that they're not all even Jamaican. I think somebody's from Trinidad, somebody's from Jamaica, and I don't know where this other guy. I mean, but New York enables you to do that. When you start talking about, I just came from Georgia. It's very similar. You're going to have to know somebody down there who's going to take you to the place where the person is, on their own, doing their own thing, and it's not a chain.
Yeah, exactly.
But they got some good food down south. I mean, that's where you're going to get fat down south. Georgia, Florida, the
Barbecue.
eating is plentiful.
A lot of barbecue. And down here, it's like my friend was just visiting me, and one of the things I love about the Latin markets in Florida is they have the cafe inside the supermarket.
Nice, nice.
And which is great because like you should never go food shopping hungry and you always wind up doing that. So you might as
Right.
well go get a cafecito and like a pastry.
Yeah, yeah.
And I hadn't done that in so long that I had I had the Cuban coffee and I was like, all right, let's go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like to go to Miami just to kind of hang out and just to be able to pop into a store and get a coffee like that and a pastry. Um, it just makes the day easier. It just makes things a bit more relaxing. Um, it feels very similar to when I went to Italy. And you can just go to a bar and it's not alcohol, it's coffee. It was like, yo, this is so cool. This just takes the edge off just a little bit.
Yeah, and you could just sit there and my boyfriend and I love he's so funny. So he'll just like sit there and people watch and like make fun of people.
Have a gelato, you know what I mean, or a coffee,
A
and
gelato,
just
affogato maybe,
yeah, man, and just kick back a little bit and enjoy the scene. Maybe even have a cigar. I mean, I like those environments.
And I mean Brooklyn probably has some of those too because it's Brooklyn.
Absolutely. You know, you can pick and choose your spots. Neighborhood by neighborhood.
Did you grow up in Brooklyn? Where
I did not. I'm a Midwestern guy. I grew
yeah.
up outside of Chicago, in a little town called Rockford, Illinois. And after I went to University of Illinois in Chicago, I decided to come to New York because the girl that lived upstairs from me lived in Brooklyn. So I came here for like Thanksgiving break, and I moved like a few blocks away from where mom lives.
Cool.
But yeah, New York back in the late '80s, early '90s was really hot, and it was one of those places where if you were a creative person, you wanted to be here. Now it's so expensive that you can't even really do that anymore. So all the creative people are moving upstate.
Yeah, now we have the internet, so you don't have to be.
Yeah, my buddy just sold his house across the street and moved to Woodstock.
Well, that's a creative place too.
Yeah, everybody's moving to like Kingston, New York, and places like that.
That's interesting.
It is. Those small towns are seeing a huge real estate boom, and the local people there are complaining that what? They're getting priced out.
Oh yeah, my friend, she wanted to buy a house that, um, in the town we grew up in and everything, and to be closer to her parents. And it's like, the houses weren't that expensive when we were kids. Like they were expensive because New Jersey has like, is always known for its high taxes and all that other stuff.
Right.
But like, she wound up paying like over like $500,000.
Yeah.
I'm like, that is not.
It's not ideal, but you have to figure out a way to either make it or you gotta bounce because it's just not gonna get any easier. Being a graphic designer, I know that I couldn't have stayed here as a graphic designer, creative director because it just costs too much.
Oh yeah, so much money.
Yeah, and I think the salaries for designers have gone down or something. I don't know. I still get postings, and I'm like, really? That's how much they're paying for that job? I don't know about that.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think anything creative is always they don't want to give you the money for the work. Even as a chef, like,
Right.
My degree costs like, over $100,000 in student loan debt. And I was coming out of school and they're like, oh, we'll pay you $10 an hour.
Yeah, when people see that reality, they're like, what was the point of even going through that process if you can't make a living from that? I mean, there is the passion of it, but you got to eat.
Exactly.
So um, I don't know what the answer is to all of this. I always love to work with chefs who are interested in taking my products and doing, creative things with them. Um, and I just don't understand, when they tell me like what they're doing and what they're making, like, I'm like, always like, really? People want you to do that level of work for that amount of money? That's interesting. I don't know how you're going to make it.
What's the most creative thing you've seen someone do with the sausage so far?
What is the most creative thing I've seen someone do? Someone in Florida, I have a guy down there who wants to do some distribution, and he's got a television show. And he sent me a picture of this pizza, and the pizza had pineapple on it, and it had my jerk chicken sausage. But he took a pineapple and made a pineapple shape, like a picture of a pineapple, on the pizza itself. It wasn't just diced up. It was a picture of a pineapple made out of pineapple slices on the pizza. So it was like visually amazing, in addition to probably delicious. I have no, I make sausage. Sausage is simple people food, right? You take it and you use it because you don't, traditionally, you season food with it because you don't have whole pieces of meat. Sausage is different cuts put together and seasoned so you can have something when you can't buy a steak. So people take it, and I tell them, yo, put it in bean dishes, put it in pasta dishes. Don't just try to eat it whole. So I've seen people do really nice white bean soups, like Italian soups, gumbos, jambalayas, and those sorts of things. And I really appreciate it when people can do that well and just use my product, not necessarily as the star of the dish, but something to just take a dish that they've done traditionally and just make it pop a little bit.
I think I might so my like since I was a kid, I've wanted to be a chef, so I was always, making things and making my friends try them. So when I was a kid, like we were talking about spicy tolerances, my spicy tolerance was not that high, and my friend, like I would play. Me and my brother would like play tricks on each other, like putting spicy things in food. Here, eat this. But so I really had gotten into making. I was trying to figure out how to make like the perfect quesadilla, like chicken quesadilla. So I wanted something that wasn't going to be like buffalo sauce on the chicken, but you know what I mean. But it had like flavor. So I was in the international food aisle where the hot sauce was in the grocery store. And I'm just like staring at the wall of like all these sauces, and there's this lady in the aisle looking at all the sauces too. And I'm like, do you know if any of these are just like really flavorful and like not spicy? And she handed me, let's see. Let's actually have some up here. This Jamaican, it's pickle pepper sauce.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I know pickle pepper sauce.
Yeah. And I was like, so I tried it and I put some like lime juice in it, and I was like, this is it. So that's the Graceadilla,
Nice.
as my friends call them, because they're making fun of me for being like, a white girl trying to make Spanish food. And so I made sure I added bacon because I'm white, so I have to add bacon to everything.
Bacon is no joke. People love bacon, and I've produced jerk pork bacon,
Ooh.
and we had it in a butcher shop, two blocks away from here. And I would grill outside. We would make jerk chicken sausages and bacon cheeseburgers with the jerk bacon on it. And
Was
like
the bacon cured with the seasoning, or was it like marinated with it, or?
no, he took the spices and he smoked the bacon, so he cured it with the seasoning on there, and people were buying it they were buying multiple packs of bacon and putting it in their freezers. That's how well it sold. They were like, "This is incredible." He did a really really nice job on this bacon. And then again, it was a co-packer, a small guy that I met upstate who just specializes in bacon. He had his own jerk bacon, but his jerk wasn't like my jerk. So his jerk looked like paprika. That's not what jerk seasoning looked like.
No.
So I put my seasoning in the mix, and people were like, "Yeah, when are you coming back with that?"
When are you coming back with that?
The current Copacker that I use, they're Russian. They do a lot of sausage, but they don't know a lot about bacon. So we're working on a prototype for the bacon. It's going to take some time just because I'm so focused on getting the sausage into stores, but I don't have a lot of time to do R&D. So there is the bacon, which is amazing, and the next idea is a curry chicken sausage, but not like currywurst that you would get in Germany. This has got the curry like a Trinidadian curry inside the sausage mix.
All right. There's this guy I interviewed a while ago. His YouTube channel is What's in the Pot. He's a Trinidadian guy. He does all this cooking on YouTube. Sean Grande, I think his last name is. And it was somehow like I didn't know anything about Trinidadian cooking before I talked to him. I knew a little bit because when I was flying, some of the guys were from Trinidad, or their families were, or whatever, but not like too much, And it was such an interesting history, especially with the Asian influence.
Right.
That but so the curry would be like, because curry, if you're talking about Indian food, it just means sauce. So
Right.
So this curry would be like a turmeric base or a cumin. No, I'm asking you what would it?
Mine?
Yeah.
It's a turmeric based curry, but I think you really can't. If you know what you're doing, it's just gonna work out, because curry is one of those things I just love. I don't care if I'm going to a Thai restaurant or Indian restaurant. It's just one of those flavors that I've always been attracted to, and because my brand has it's rooted in the West Indian culture, I just think that it's one of those things that I just gotta do.
Yeah.
You start talking about curry and coconut milk and all those things, and that doesn't exist in the sausage universe as I know it. So why not put it there?
Going back to, you were talking about you not eating pork. Down the line, would you consider making this like a kosher or a halal product?
The next version of the product will be halal, because I'm Muslim, actually. So we my guys have their certification in halal and kosher. So we're gonna go ahead and we know a supplier that can get us halal chicken, So we'll just go ahead. I have to get the labels updated with the USDA, which is a process in itself, to get the halal symbol on the labels so it can go into the stores. But definitely. But again, I think this isn't about Islam. So will there be a pork version of sausage? Possibly. I'm not against it.
Oh yeah, I'm just wondering because I know, a lot of my friends are all different religions, but it's very hard for them to find products like this where they can
Right.
eat it. You know.
Well,
They're gonna-
there's that, and there's also, you mentioned all the Asian influence in the Trinidadian food. The flavors, the seasoning that I'm using is very familiar to people in the Middle East, in Asia, because it all blended together in the Caribbean. So I'm just kind of kicking it back out to them in a form that they can actually eat. So a curry chicken sausage might do well in the Indian community.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's gonna do well in any community because if it tastes good, it's gonna do well.
You'd be surprised at how so many people just want a hot dog.
Yeah,
I just want a hot dog.
I forget because I guess my echo chamber is very foodie centric.
Yeah, you can't be fooled into thinking that everybody's gonna love your stuff. My stuff is for a small population of people. Some people just want a beef hot dog. They just want a Hebrew national, which I also love. So I can't front. It's good, but sometimes the spice, as some folks age, they can't take that heat. Gives them indigestion and stuff. So
Do you have levels of like?
I do. There's a mild and there's a spicy, which is in the middle, and then there's a mighty spicy. That's for the people who are truly committed to the whole spice thing.
I think that's also if you're depending on what you're using it for too. If
Right.
you're gonna go put it in a soup, maybe you want the mighty spicy because it's not the only thing you're eating.
Right, and that's a really smart way to think about it. The chefs that use my sausage, they all pick the same thing. I'll give them a sample box with everything in it so they can try all of them. They all pick the same thing. They pick spicy.
All right.
And they're all cooking different things. Some people are using it for an egg and cheese biscuit. Some people are using it in African dishes. Other people are using it in places more Caribbean. But they're all doing different stuff, and they're all picking the same sausage.
Oh, well, I guess we have to try the spicy then. One thing going back to the nonprofit thing, for like people listening, from my background being a flight attendant, one of the things that not all airlines, but there is, and I'm blanking on the name of the organization, but they are trying to get training for flight attendants to spot children that
I've
are
heard
being
about that.
trafficked.
Right. I've heard about that. Like how do you identify a situation? Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to be going off to training in a few days. So maybe I'll see you on a flight.
It's a shame that's necessary, but it's true. I mean, there are women and children who are in situations, and it would be helpful if flight attendants, people that work in hotels, people work in motels, could pick up on the signs when somebody is, going somewhere, and they're not going there because they want to go. They're going there because somebody is controlling them.
Yes. So I think it's such an important cause that you're doing that. If I find what that organization is, I'll send it to you. Because obviously, I also don't know if, that's going to administrative fees or,
Well,
helping people. You gotta always check.
your training will be very, hopefully, could save someone's life. It could get them back home to their family.
Oh yeah, I know a few flight attendants that have
Really?
successfully done that. Yeah. I
Big. That's
think American Airlines and like the legacy carriers basically are the ones that have the real training. But I people change airlines all the time, so we're lucky enough that some people have that training.
Are you doing flights to Italy?
The carrier I'm going to work for is going to be mostly domestic for now. I have a opportunity maybe to go back to my old airline, which would be all international transatlantic flights.
Okay.
But I'm not going to hold my breath because you never know with COVID. Because if it's all international and the border's shut down, then that's
Right.
not good. But
Right.
I have gotten to go. I've gotten my 15-hour layover in Rome, which is it's enough time.
It's not a bad place.
No, it's enough time to have dinner. So, we had dinner and we looked at. We were sitting at the cafe and there was we were like walking distance from like the Trevi Fountain, and you can see. I want to say, is it the Parthenon on the mountain?
I've never been to Rome.
Oh, it is. It's beautiful. I did get to go actually in high school to a tour of Italy because the Italian club would they like whoever could afford to go. So like I saved up from when I was like in 6th grade. I worked at the bagel store, like did all that till when I was in high school, and I got to go on a trip with them, and we got to go to Florence, and
That's where I went.
That was so much better than Rome.
Was it really?
Yeah,
I've never heard we went to Montecatini on my honeymoon, and it's right outside of Florence. You just take a train to Florence to go shopping and stuff. But I was in a little spa town outside of Florence, and it was lovely.
To me, the food was so much better in Florence than even then. I was only looking at the food.
That's why I planned that trip, and it was all about the food. The wine was amazing. The seafood that we had was, some of the best that I've ever had. And that's not usually what people think of when they go to Italy, seafood, but the seafood that I had was amazing.
I mean, it's right on the Mediterranean. How could you not think of it?
It is, but people always think about, the obvious things. Probably because we have this sort of American perspective of what Italy is supposed to be. But
that's true.
The wine,
meatballs, like the American spaghetti and meatballs, like pizza. That's not a thing.
So, no, that's not why I'm going.
But that's an Italian American thing to have like a big meatball stuff. They don't in Italy. They don't. They're like, what is that? What are you talking about?
Yeah, Italy was a cool trip. I would definitely go back there, but I want to go to the Amalfi Coast.
Oh, yeah, me too. On my list.
Yeah, man, that would be a nice trip.
Yeah, I'm trying to. That's why I'm like, I want the international to come back, but we'll see.
Maybe you can go over there and buy a house.
They are having that thing where they want people to come in and buy houses.
But they want you to open a business too or something.
Yeah, they want you to like live there.
Yeah, so go start a truffle farm or something.
Or maybe I'll start an import chicken and sausage business.
Yeah, sausage. You could do a sausage tour of Italy. That would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
Sausage game in Italy is pretty strong, and we don't even see half of it.
Yeah, and the cheese.
And the cheese. I
Just
do
like the
know,
whole charcuterie board.
right? I do know a woman who does a Polish sausage tour. You get to learn how to make sausage, and you get to try all these different sausages for like a week.
In Italy?
In Poland, it's a
Oh,
Polish sausage tour. So the same thing can exist in Italy.
I mean, I thought she was going to be in Brooklyn, to be honest with you. Or maybe Garfield, New Jersey. But I love, Kibasi's, I love Kibasi,
I'm from Chicago. There are a lot of Polish people there, and they do have a strong presence in terms of sausage in Chicago.
Maybe you need the Polish guy to help
Set it up.
Yeah. That was a whole. The Polish food is really good. Like talk about like just like starch, cheese, and meat.
Yeah.
It's winter cuisine. That's what I call it.
That's how people in the Midwest got that little extra layer. That food is heavy.
Yeah, I just got to go to Tennessee and had some barbecue, and it was good. I'm excited to start flying because I haven't really. I've seen more of Europe than I have seen of America. So it's just like it's going to be good to see the rest of the country.
Yeah, especially if you do it in a food sort of way.
I mean, there's no other way.
Every place has its own thing. We're going to Massachusetts in about a week, and that's where I go to get a lobster roll. I go to Martha's Vineyard. I don't eat lobster rolls in New York. I only eat them there.
That makes sense. I always say that's my last meal dream because I'm allergic to shellfish. So I'm like, if it's gonna kill me anyway, last meal, lobster roll.
Lobster rolls. Maybe you just need an EpiPen or something.
Yeah. Well, that would be a lot. That would be a very expensive trip. Maybe when they pass universal healthcare, I'll do it.
Yeah, right. That's another episode.
That's another episode. Well, I got to go and get ready for another podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I'll have all the links in the description for, your sausage and everything, so people can go buy some sausage. And I'll also put the recipe to the quesadilla thing because I'm definitely going to try out the sausage.
You should.
Quesadilla recipe. I think that's going to be really good.
I've done a quesadilla with it, and I highly recommend it.
Right.
So I'll actually turn on all the links to the online store because I shut them off because I was on vacation and I was like, I'm not going to be able to deliver this stuff if orders are coming in and I'm not around. So.
Oh, so you get it's not like drop shipping where they.
I did not have the volume to maintain that. You have to be doing a certain volume to make that work.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm just going to do it until I can't do it anymore. And I haven't gotten to that place yet, where it's just so busy that I just can't handle it.
So you have to have your own giant freezer then, huh? In your tiny apartment.
I got friends.
Okay.
I got a guy. You know how you from? You know what I'm talking about. I got a guy.
Yeah.
So I do have a stash, and when orders come in, I see it on my phone, and I can fulfill the orders as quickly as possible. If you are going to order online, I ship on Mondays and Tuesdays. And if you're in the New York area, I'll ship on a Wednesday. But after that, there's a likelihood that the mail's going to mess up and it's not going to get to your house on time, so it'll spoil. So just keep in mind that if you're going to make an order and it's late in the week, I'm not going to ship it until the following week, that Monday or Tuesday. If you put like an order in on Friday or Saturday or something.
especially if you're in Florida, because like I used to run a cookie and brownie company, and we would do like experiments on like shelf life and ship to different people in across the country. It took twice as long to get to Florida for some reason every time instead of getting than it did to get to California.
I don't know what it is about
So,
Florida, man, but every time I would send something to Florida, um, which was quite a bit, it would oftentimes be a day late because I have to ship. I have to use second day in order for
yeah,
you to put your stuff and it still be cold. And man, if I ship on a Thursday or even a Wednesday, and it's supposed to get there Friday, it'll get there on Monday, which means your stuff is just shot.
yeah.
So, I had to make adjustments and just say, listen, I'm just going to do it on Mondays and Tuesdays for Florida, California. I got a box that needs to go out to Colorado. It's just the safest thing to do. And the shipping costs are expensive. So I don't know. I have a couple of friends who have, like Jamaican patty companies and stuff like that, and they ship, and it's just challenging if you're not doing hundreds of orders a day. You're doing just like 25, 30 a week, something like that. It's dealing with, FedEx and all that stuff is a pain in the neck when you have a parachute.
Oh yeah. Are you on Gold Belly?
I applied and they did not respond, so I guess I'm not special enough. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, I was on a couple of other different platforms, and it was more so for like cafe owners and stuff like that who are looking for special ingredients, but it wasn't for the average consumer per se.
Okay.
Do you think I should be on Gold Belly?
Well, I was a few people I interviewed. Pat's King of Steaks, the original cheesesteak,
Yeah.
Frank Olivieri. He just had such a good, result with that because of COVID shut down everything and they needed to make money, so they were shipping the cheesesteaks all across the country, and also Bassett's Ice Cream is doing that too.
I don't have a rep like my man with the cheese sticks.
Yeah, I know.
I don't have legendary status.
But also like Bassett's Ice Cream, like that's a frozen product too, so that's why it made me think of it like, hey, that might help, but
right,
you never know. So
well, listen, I know you have another podcast. You're crazy busy.
I gotta get them in before I go to flight attendant school,
Best of luck.
Thank you. Thanks for watching, guys. And make sure you go get yourself some sausage from the links below. Also, I started a Patreon because I would rather just do this full time than be a flight attendant. So if you can afford to help me out, please help me out.
No, it's real. If you love doing podcasts.
I love doing podcasts. I love talking to food people like you. I would love to be able to afford to take the show on the road, so to speak, and interview people in person, which is what I'm doing. Literally, I got the flight attendant. I was flying before, and I was like, I'm gonna go back to the flying, not to be a flight attendant, but so I could. I mean, obviously, I have to do the job, but. So I could have the flight benefits and also, using my layovers if I get a longer one, which is, we'll see about that. I could use that to make the podcast better,
I don't know. You could do that, or you can just keep it really crazy local and take us to all the hot places in your town. That kind of works too. I mean, I can't get grilled or blackened anything up here, and you have access to all this stuff. And when I come to Florida, like a lot of people from this area do, they might use your podcast as a reference. Like,
Yeah,
yo, I'm
but
going to
if I
listen to
could
this
do
girl.
that for every state across the country, I
Then
don't
you'd
know.
be
I'm ambitious, I guess.
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. So so yeah, I definitely want to have some updates later
Okay.
on,
Okay.
and so we'll have you on again. And
Let me know.
all right, I'll talk to you later.
Yeah.